This video was made possible by our backers on Patreon, like Elliot M. Thanks, Elliot. Switzerland has a relatively unique relationship with Europe, and especially with the European Union. A unique relationship that the EU had wanted to strengthen through a framework agreement. But having been negotiated throughout 2014 to 2018, on Wednesday, Switzerland walked away from the negotiating table. So why did that happen, and what happens next? Let's explain right now. As things stand, Switzerland isn't a member of the EU, despite being surrounded by member states. Therefore, Switzerland's relationship with the EU is defined through three core sets of agreements, covering free trade, free movement, taxation, borders, and more. So far, so good, right? Well, the issue is that these bilateral agreements aren't exactly cohesive. Instead of a single agreement underpinning the relationship, there are some 120 separate sector-specific agreements. Anyway, in a bid to simplify things and strengthen the EU-Swiss relationship, back in 2014 the two sides started negotiating a framework agreement, a beefed-up agreement designed to replace all 120 separate ones with a single document. After 4 years of back and forth between the two, an agreement was provisionally reached back in 2018. An agreement that brought together a patchwork of different bilateral agreements, as well as giving room to Switzerland to further deepen its relationship with the EU in some previously untapped areas, such as a potential electricity union. Switzerland, however, temporarily paused ratification to consult with domestic partners, and, well, that's where things began to unravel. After consulting with domestic partners, Switzerland came back to the negotiating table seeking changes in three specific areas: state aid, freedom of movement, and social security for EU workers in Switzerland. Despite continually trying to reach some sort of amicable settlement on the framework agreement, on Wednesday, enough was enough. The current president of the Swiss Confederation announced that they hadn't reached the solutions necessary with the EU, and as such, they would be walking away. The European Commission promptly hit back, expressing regret at the decision and highlighting the intentions behind the agreement, explaining that its core purpose was to ensure that anyone operating in the EU single market faces the same conditions. That is fundamentally a matter of fairness and legal certainty. Before proceeding to issue a thinly veiled threat, alongside publishing a fact sheet entitled "What if there is no institutional framework agreement?", in which the Commission stated that without an agreement, this modernisation of our relationship will not be possible, and our bilateral agreements will inevitably age. Without the agreement, no new agreements will be concluded, and the existing agreements may not be updated, with the relationship between Switzerland and the European Union simply eroding over time. The agreement had been essential for the conclusion of possible future agreements regarding Swiss further participation in the single market. While the existing agreements between the two do remain in force, real-world impacts are already being seen. Swiss medical technology companies are now unable to export duty-free to the EU, with Switzerland downgraded to third country status. Whether both now return to the negotiating table once again to hash out their differences is, for now at least, anyone's guess. But it looks like Switzerland is resisting getting closer to the EU and unifying their plans. Well, for now at least. You might remember that at the start of this video, I mentioned our patron Elliot. Well, they're just one of the patrons who makes this whole business possible. In return for their generous support, they get their names mentioned in videos, early access to content, exclusive live streams, and more. To find out what you can get and sign up, click the link in the description. Thanks so much for your support.